Hello, friends. Welcome to March 15th, 2021, and welcome to another podcast. And of course, happy Monday to all of you as you either finish up your Monday or starting your Monday. So, again, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the March 15th, which is also the Ides of March. Which the Ides of March is the 74th day in the Roman calendar, which corresponds to March 15th. It was marked by several religious observations and was notable for the Romans as a deadline for settling debts. Precisely in 44 BC, it was notorious as the date of the assassination of Julius Caesar, which made the Ides of March a turning point in the Roman history. So March 15th is about settling debts. As we all talk about, this podcast is focused on Gen Z and millennials and those who lead them. Welcome. I believe this is the 119th or 20th podcast. I'm not sure which. But we're glad to be here. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you can continue to share with your family, friends, and coworkers our podcast. Today we've got a good podcast, and it's about settling debts with society. And it really is interesting because me, my wife, and my little boy spent time in Big Bear on Saturday night to enjoy a little bit of R&R in the snow. And we chose to spend a night in a hotel that you could call it suspect. The price was very low because the prices were pretty inflated since there was snow in Big Bear. But the price for this hotel was low in comparison to the other hotels in the surrounding area. With that said, there were what you would call, for the lack of better wording, quite a few of riffraffs hanging around, or maybe even suspect people hanging around the hotel. So I would say it probably wasn't the safest spot to bring a family and with a young boy. I will leave the hotel unnamed, but that night, it was about 11:30 on this past Saturday, and we hear banging on the door, lots of banging on the door. It wasn't our door, but it was next to us. And we hear police, we hear open up, and I guess somebody comes to the door, and he begins to say, "I'm not resisting arrest, I know my rights." And I didn't see the individual, but from the sound of his voice and the use of homie, I'm going to guess he was somewhere, Gen Z or potential early millennial. And I thought to myself, we talk on this podcast about how we millennials and Gen Z are the smartest generation, which is the most intelligent, and they have a very good head on their shoulder in most cases. But just like any generation, there are some individuals that struggle with getting on their feet or make some bad decisions or are in some bad circumstances. And in the case of this individual, I don't know what the circumstance was, if there was a warrant for his arrest or what he did to involve the police. But my guess is it was something of a circumstance, and he probably found himself in a bad situation where he handled something he shouldn't have handled, or he did something he shouldn't have did. But that brought me to thinking about, what about all those individuals that were left behind? And when I say left behind, I'm talking about those Gen Z and millennials that maybe they didn't have the greatest grades, they didn't have the greatest upbringing, and they didn't have the resources that some individuals do. Now, don't get me wrong, many of them might have had the resources, but didn't utilize them in a way they needed to. Maybe they didn't have a strong family foundation, but maybe they did. There are many cases and many examples where very prestigious families have children, offspring, that don't always do as what is expected, even though they have all the resources, all the great opportunities they can have in front of them. Sometimes individuals they just have some bad habits they learn along the way. And that's what I want to talk about today. And then I want to provide some tips on how, if you are in a bad situation or you know somebody in a bad situation, where you can try to help improve the overall situation and make a good life for yourself. Make a good life for your maybe current family or a pending family that you have one day. I don't believe in there are lost causes. I don't believe in that. I believe we all have the opportunity to be motivated. We all have the opportunity to have a better life. We all have the ability to utilize our talents or do the best job we can in our position and potentially look for promotional opportunities. Not all of us are suited for school. Not all of us are suited for leadership, but we are all suited to be able to do a job that is beneficial to society, that is beneficial to making a great living wage, or even doesn't have to be a great living wage. It could just be a living wage in general. And so we're going to talk in great detail about those individuals. Now, I'd like you to think for a second. Do you know anybody that is an individual that has struggled, or is somebody that hasn't done the things the way they should have, or they struggled in school? You've seen them go down a path that seems to be problematic. I'm sure you've seen that. We've all seen that. It is very common. In many cases, people take a different path, they meander, but they seem to always fall back in line as they mature. They find their way. One way individuals find their way, a lot of times, and it's not a bad route to go. It's actually a very intelligent route to go if you don't know what your path is going to be. And that is the military. In many cases, people that have troublesome backgrounds or undecisive about where they want to go, they choose the military. Not everybody. Some people are born where it's instilled in them to go in the military, and they do a lot of great things. They spend 20 years in the military. My cousin spent 20 years in the military. Rest his soul. Unfortunately, he did pass away a month or so ago due to the military and a lot of bomb explosives and things like that. So there are some downfalls to the type of work you choose, and he chose a type of work that he's exposed to a lot of chemicals. So you do have to choose work where you're not susceptible to poor working conditions. So the military can be a great career if you choose the right field. It can potentially pay for your college, so you can come out of the military debt-free with a great career path. You just have to make sure whatever career you choose in the military, the tools are relatable and can be passed down from the military to modern civilization type of work. There's a struggle sometimes of individuals coming out of the military and not being able to utilize those resources because they're not tangible with what they learn in the military to what they learned in everyday life. Other ways of going is seek career management help. Seek personnel that will help you get on the right path. And that's the same thing for any of us. We all have a path we have to choose. And sometimes it's just you need a career counselor, somebody that can help you realign your talents with your goals of what you want to achieve within your livelihood. Sometimes you need to talk to your family and friends and ask them, what am I good at? What do I do well? How are these transferable skills to what I could do in the future? And your family and your friends, depending on who your friends are, may have some great ideas on how to help you find your way. But remember, the friends you utilize, it's important to ensure that they are the type of friends that are motivated, they're goal oriented, and they have your best interest in mind. In some cases, your friends will bring you down. And so that's what I always say is you always want to surround yourself with great people. And I would say that's one of the things that maybe I've either been very lucky at or have chose the right individuals to hang around. But I've always believed that you are an extension of the people you hang around. If you have successful friends, then you're likely to either follow or learn a constructive path that's going to allow you to reach your goals. So that is why it's so important to choose your friends. If you've got friends that are bringing you down, or they're just partying, or they just don't have a future, I'm not saying ditch your friends. I'm just saying maybe spend more time with those individuals that are goal-oriented, do have career-minded goals, and are able to reach their full potential. I can speak as from my young age, I had a very meandering path to what some individuals would consider a somewhat successful career so far. And that meandering path was culminated back in my early 20s, as I think I've shared in the past, where I was a police officer, but I was a police officer for the wrong reasons. And it wasn't the path that I should have been going down. It wasn't the career choice that I should have made. And I decided, well, maybe I'll just go to school for business. And I just chose that because it seemed like the safest bet. And that leads me to my next tip. Sometimes it's best to pick the safest bet. What is the thing that you can utilize more than anything? Well, a business degree, you can't go wrong because that is a very generic degree, and it allows you to enter a lot of different fields, and it opens the door to many potential opportunities. So that's another tip, is sometimes finding the safest bet. And one of the other ones I know I've shared before, but for millennials and Gen Z, remember the choices you make now will be indicative of what happens as you try to aspire for goal-oriented or career opportunities. Remember, the Gen Z and millennials have the two most toughest competitions when it comes to employment opportunities. You guys have the most individuals, the most Gen Z, the most millennials, and you're always having to compete. Well, if you're competing, that means you've got to minimize the mistakes you make and make those opportunities count. When you make those opportunities count, that means you are opening the door to opportunities that you didn't even know that existed. But you don't want to close those doors ahead of time. If you get in some trouble, if you get in some mischief, and you have a record, or you have things at an early age that are going to offset your opportunities, you close the door on your opportunities. That's another thing I want to make sure that you think about. That's another tip. Another tip is job hopping is something that is very correlated to a lot of individuals, especially Gen Z and millennials. But be careful where you job hop. Be careful about just taking the skills you utilize to jump to the next opportunity. Because trust me, employers are seeing that. Yes, does it maybe maximize your dollar opportunity? It may for the short term, but when I'm looking at resumes for a current couple opportunities that I have, I'm looking at how long individuals have been in their jobs. And I see, one job, 2016 to 2017, a second job, 2016 to 2017, a third job, 2017 to 2018. And again, you see this path where they may be earning and utilizing new opportunities, new transferable skills, which is a plus. But an employer doesn't want to hire somebody just to teach them transferable skills so they can then utilize those skills somewhere else. When employers look to hire individuals, they're looking for how can I utilize their talents for the next 2-3 years to make sure that they can benefit and help my organization grow. That is what employers are looking for. HR managers, talent individuals, that's what they're looking for. You can really hurt yourself in a job market if you continue to job hop. Now, understandable, the pandemic has highlighted some issues where a lot of Gen Z and particularly millennials were let go or lost their jobs within the service sectors. And that created some confusion or obstacles within the job market. So trust me, we do review those resumes and we take that into account. But if it was 2017, 2018, 2019, and you continue to see 1 to 2 jobs every single year, that tends to be a concern as well. So those are some tips. Those are some observations. And also another and final tip and observation is try to find yourself a mentor. If you're struggling, you don't know the path, find a mentor, somebody you look up to, somebody that has had success. It doesn't matter what their age is. They could be your age, they could be older, but if they've had success and they've did the things they needed to do, maybe they also got in some trouble, but there are ways to get out of that trouble. You can get your record expunged. You can maximize your opportunities. You can utilize the military, trade schools. Trade schools are an excellent way to find chosen occupations that have tremendous opportunities, tremendous growth opportunities. So that is another tip. So there is no shortage of opportunities, but as always, you have to have that motivation. You have to have that persistence. You have to have that desirability to achieve more than you're achieving now. That goes for any bad habits you have. That goes for any issues you have that are maybe barriers to enabling you to move forward. You have to remove those barriers. You have to minimize those bad habits, and you have to open your eyes to the opportunities that are in front of you. Find that motivation, find that ability, and together you can find your way out of impending mess that you're in. I've been there. I've known a lot of people that have been there, and they've found ways to get out. But to be able to do that, you need to utilize your resources. You need to find people that are important in your life, and you need to get that help and guidance and find those people that want to help you and be part of something spectacular. So again, I want to thank everybody for listening. I want to show appreciation to all the new listeners we have out there. We've got great listeners from France, Europe, Russia, of course, the United States, and many other places all around the world. So thank you very much for your listenership. It's greatly appreciated. And if you'd like to provide any feedback or you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out via my email, jason@jwigginsconsulting.com, or via our website, genzandmillennialexpert.com. And again, if it's morning, afternoon, or night, be safe, take care, and I can't wait to talk to you tomorrow on Tuesday, March 16th. Make sure you settle your debts, if that's with society or with Uncle Sam or whoever it may be. So take care, have a great night, and bye-bye.